Well, let's discuss this further. We're going to be joined via Zoom by Sheilan Clarke, a spokesperson for My Vote Accounts. Sheilan, good afternoon. Thank you for making time to chat to us here on the SABC today.
Good afternoon.
Perhaps we can jump straight into it. How important are these interviews, perhaps as we edge closer to next year's elections?
Yes, I know we keep saying elections are important, but next year's elections is quite important because it will be the first one where we'll have a new electoral system with the Electoral Amendment Act that was enacted not too long ago. So this will be quite crucial because we've got the IEC needs to put measures in place to facilitate a brand new system to allow for independent candidates to contest in next year's provincial and national elections. There's also the Political Party Funding Act, which has been added to the IEC's mandate that they are facilitating, and this will be the first big election with this piece of legislation. So it's really important that we have someone who is able to hit the ground running, because there's quite a lot happening right now with the IEC, especially ahead of next year's elections.
No, absolutely. I think in lieu of what you've just echoed, then what kind of leader should the next commissioner of the Independent Electoral Commission encompass or perhaps be?
Someone who acts with, the highest integrity. I mean, that is actually one of the questions that's being asked with each candidate is about integrity. So someone who acts with the highest integrity, someone who is impartial, because, the IEC, they deal with political parties and now with independent candidates as well. But also someone who has a passion to, ensure that our democracy is safeguarded, to protect, our democracy and act with the will of the people. Someone with those values is quite crucial, because the IEC is one of the most important Chapter 9 institutions. They safeguard our democracy and they ensure that our democracy functions as it should.
You've spoken about changes to the electoral system and also the Political Party Funding Act that's now coming to the fore ahead of these next elections. At this point, what would you say are some of the challenges that the IEC is currently facing in lieu of these changes as well? How do you think it's going to impact outcomes for next year?
So many challenges. I mean, there is, like we said, the Electoral Amendment Act, and then there is the Political Party Funding Act, which will need to be amended itself to be in line with the Electoral Amendment Act. The IEC, their budget keeps getting cut year after year after year, and they've got a few resources with more of the mandate that's been added. There's talks about e-voting, the piloting e-voting as well. So there's quite a lot of things that the IEC really needs to put in place to ensure not just that the elections run smoothly next year, but just post-elections as well. Because with the new electoral reform, there is going to be a panel, electoral reform panel being put together to think about and strategize around electoral reform beyond 2024. So it's not just going to be, we've got this Act 2024, here we go. There's going to be more talks about electoral reform beyond 2024. So all these things that the IEC will have to manage. So whoever needs to come in will have to hit the ground running.
How do we begin to mobilize the youth vote, given the low voter turnout in the past? That's something we have to look at. Representation is also important. Do you think the current candidates are a true reflection of the demographics of the country?
Well, I mean, that's always going to be a tricky thing, to speak about how we mobilize, the youth. I mean, I don't think that the youth don't know the importance of voting. I think it's more of, what they are seeing is not really something that sparks joy, as the youth will probably say. So, I mean, the candidates that we have right now, I mean, there is representation there. I mean, how we mobilize youth just goes beyond just educating. It's just really showing them the representation and showing them that there is value in voting. There is value in taking part in our democratic process.
Sheilan Clarke, thank you for stepping out and for being part of this discussion. I know that those interviews are obviously underway and you're monitoring that. We'll leave the conversation there for now. Sheilan Clarke, spokesperson for My Vote Counts, just weighing in on what has transpired to date as we see the Electoral Commission having their interviews currently underway in Johannesburg.